Today we have a wonderful guest on the show. Her name is Abby Lynn. She is a multifaceted individual. She has done so many things that are outside of the box, it's hard to know where to start. But Abby Lynn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. Again, it's always a pleasure to sit and have a great chat with you. Always allowing energy to come in and see where the conversation leads it.
Well, I see that you're shuffling tarot cards.
No, you know what? The thing is I have ADHD and it calms me down to have something to do.
Yeah.
Um, no, you know what? My favorite cards right now are Rebecca Campbell's her Oracle decks. I love Oracle decks. I have Healing Waters and I have Starseed. And she has also another deck called Work Your Light. But Rebecca Campbell's my jam. Each of the cards, I mean, you can feel all the energy inside each one of them. And so yeah, so I'm gonna play with these and see if I'm called to pull one. So
Okay. That's great. And I can also see like a little trail of smoke coming up from your desk. What's that all about?
I always whenever I come in for work, podcast sessions, everything, I light some incense and just have it going. The power our senses, especially the power of smell, is again powerful for our
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah.
I just realized I said the word powerful like four times.
That's okay.
But yeah, it's just it you know what? It tells my brain that and my energy it's time to shift. It's kind of time to work. It's time to come to that different state of mind because then once I leave the office, then I'm full 3D Abby, 3D mom doing everything.
Got it. Do
Yeah.
you have some kind of spray that you use before you go out into public?
Yes, we were just talking about that in the green room before we started the recording. I make a clearing spray, and I love it. I make it with my daughter. She's much more powerful here than I am. But yeah, it's my Auric Ray spray, and but it's a clearing spray, and the just understanding I used to do clearings in people's homes and obviously clearing out energies. But you and I were talking about the oils that are in the Bible, frankincense and myrrh and gold. We were having a great conversation about gold. But the frequency of frankincense is one of the highest frequencies, right? So negative, archons, energies, all of these dimensionals, they live in the vibration of energy. And so what I created was this spray has tons of high grade frankincense inside of it, but it's also I use Celtic sea salt in it, and I put a piece of selenite in this as well, and then I've just added in some cedar wood and some clary sage, and then on top of that, both my daughter and I we're energy healers, and so we put our hands and we bring in healing frequencies, clearing protective frequencies into the mixture. And this latest batch that I just did, I actually just put my hands over the whole bowl and did toning over all of them because what you're doing is you're aligning in all of the molecules within the bottle to that. So yeah, so I spray this, I keep it in my car. I actually when I like the first thing I do when I walk in my house, I have one of these on a shelf and you just spray it. And I like how I spray it is I just spray it above my head and it just kind of mists all around. But what it's doing is it both like clears out your energy field, but it also it helps to solidify your auric field as well. It seals it up nicely. So, as we're going through the day and getting anxiety or anger or any of those type of emotions, we can, whether we're aware of it or not, start to kind of like poke little holes in our auric field. And so this just is a good thing to come and just shield it before we go out and about. So yes.
Well, that's
Yes, I
that's
do. I love this spray. I have a bunch of my friends, like when they go to they're psychics and mediums, and when they work at fairs, they take this with them and they will spray people down, spray themselves in between each
yeah.
client. But yeah.
And it's called Auric Ray.
It's called Auric Ray. Yeah, Auric Ray was the name of my company. Well, it is my company, but yeah, it's my website used to be Auric Ray. But then nobody knew how to spell it or pronounce it, so but I just use it for my blends now. I make candles, I make meditation candles and calming sprays, clearing sprays.
Cool. And so what's your website now? Let's get that out there.
Oh, it's abbylyn.co. Everything's on abbylyn.co.
Okay, so people can get Auric Ray and other stuff there.
Yes. Yes, they can.
Awesome, awesome. I see the little incense floating by.
It's going back.
You know what's so interesting, Abby, is that I got some frankincense and myrrh at the suggestion of Leah Ray Light. She was at the conference that you just attended,
Yep.
the yeah, Journey to Truth conference.
Mhm.
And she, because I had a bunch of readings with her several years ago, and she contacted me and said, I want to give you a free reading because I love your picture of a sunflower that I saw. And I was like, okay.
Oh,
So, I mean, it's pretty rare that anybody says, I want to give you something for free, and they actually do want to give you something for free.
yeah.
So anyway, she recommended these, and I was putting these myrrh and frankincense on my crown and all over me, and to her directions, and then I forgot about it for a long time. But literally about 20 minutes before we started talking today, I found this bottle of frankincense, and I was like, "Hey, I still have a whole bottle of frankincense." And then we started talking about frankincense.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's I mean it's a reason why it's mentioned in the Bible. It's the reason why it was the first gift that was given to Yeshua. Um yeah, it's they understood again the frequency of it. The candles that I make are frankincense and myrrh candles. And those are for my meditation because when you're going into a meditation, you are essentially opening yourself up. And it's good to have those scents coming in around you because, well, number one, they do calm your mind, they calm the body, but it's doing a dual action. It's also through those smells and coming in, it's actually protecting you as well and keeping things away as you're meditating.
yeah, like archons.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I
how did
call
you,
I call them I call them the looky loos.
okay, how did you figure out to make it frankincense and myrrh? Was that just something you downloaded yourself?
Yeah, just I mean, just looking at honestly the healing oils of the Bible and looking at the frequency of them, and because yeah, so you want to bring in the highest frequency that you can, within your field.
So the Bible started you off on that journey, and then you researched it and you went, yeah, this is right.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's so interesting because I mean, I wouldn't want to, throw the Bible away just because I'm not a religious person. I would never say, let's toss the scriptures because they're incredibly powerful, to use that word again.
yeah,
Historical documents, right? All those books, they're historical documents. How do we read them? That's the key. And by the way, have they been translated correctly? And then we have to go to Moro Bilino, Biglino, an
hmm
Italian scholar of Masoretic Hebrew,
hmm
and he was tasked by a Vatican publishing house for which he worked for 10 years to do a literal translation of the Masoretic text of the Bible. And they said, this is the real text,
yeah,
translated word for word. We want to know what it says. He started to translate it. He found ETs, spacecraft, and all sorts of things that the Vatican didn't want to hear about. So they fired him. They didn't even let him finish the project. They're like,
yeah,
you're done. But what about the 10 years I worked for you? Bye. We don't
yeah.
want to hear about it. So, so we don't have the correctly translated Bibles. The only
No,
people that have them are the people at the Vatican who
yeah,
know the truth but aren't telling people.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm not gonna. I have barely read the Bible in my life. I've always been kind of just rejected against it. I was the kid, I was the kid that in Sunday school I was always threatened to be permanently removed and kicked out because I questioned it and never there's I was that kid that found inconsistencies. I was the kid that found the things that, well, that's a hypocrite and that doesn't make any sense. And why would they ask? Like, 'cause that was me. That was me every Sunday with the nuns. I grew up Catholic and yeah, and I mean, I was threatened even for my confirmation. They're like, Abby, if you don't stop like questioning all these things, you are going to be removed and you will not be confirmed. And the thing that I loved the most was I went through this with there's one boy in my grade and we did all this together and he and I would challenge the nuns together. And he is and still is. He's still my friend. We're still in contact, but he was my philosophy friend, right? He really followed a lot of Buddhism. And so all through those formative years, he and I would have all of our these deep philosophical questions, and we just really weren't buying what was being sold to us.
Yeah, I had a friend who was Christian, and he invited me to Sunday school, and once, and I was like, okay, and I came, and I wasn't really that impressed, and then that was it. I mean, my parents were Quakers, but they so there was no real scripture. It's just a circle of friends, and you get together and you talk, and it's sort of like passing the feather in the circle, and that's it. There's no like doctrine to follow. It's just basically try to be a good person, run the Underground Railroad when there's slavery, things like that.
Yeah.
And my dad was a pacifist, a conscientious objector in the war. I never was told you have to believe or you don't or you shouldn't believe. They just left me alone. They did go to a psychotherapist, a psychologist, when we were young. My brother and I were young, and they said, "What's a good religion to raise kids under?" And they said, "Not Christianity. They'll grow up with a fear of hell that's really traumatic."
Yeah.
And I thought my parents are amazing. They went to like a clinical psychologist, I guess,
Yeah.
to ask that question. They went out of their way to ask that question, and they got this answer where he's just like, "No, you don't want you don't want Christianity in their heads."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know what? And I have a whole, like all my books are all around me. And somewhere up here, my mom bought, have you ever heard of the Colburn Bible?
What's it? How do you spell it?
It's Kolbrin. I believe that is right. The Colburn Bible.
Mm-mm.
And she heard about it. She bought a copy for, oh yeah, there it is right there. The Colburn Bible. She bought a copy for my sisters and I, and it's supposed to be the Bible before everybody tore it apart and brought all their politics into it. So
Whoa.
it's essentially like it's the pre King James version. But yeah, I actually have it over there. Um, I haven't read it. I just have my own things with religion. But
Right.
um yeah, the whole, I mean, I think Catholic guilt might be probably one of the top things that they preach in there, right? It's the fear, it's the guilt, fear, shame. It's all of it is it's a slave system. In my mind, it has always represented slavery and control, mind control and slavery.
Right.
Um, and and the thing that really stinks is that they took something, I so in the work that I do, I have spoken with Yeshua. I have spoken with Mary Magdalene a lot. I mean, Mary Magdalene has showed up a lot more frequently for me. I work with the Essenes, the Sophia energy, the Sarah energy, right? So actually talking to them and seeing them, and it is such a disservice to see what man has done to why they even came here, what man has done, even just to their legacy, to the point of their life. And um, yeah, it's really, really unfortunate. It's so unfortunate. And I struggle with getting, browbeaten with the very religious people because obviously they don't agree with anything that I do. And that's okay. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion about it. But I find it so interesting that people who worship something and they're not worshiping the truth, but in their mind, I go every single Sunday and I am an amazing Christian and I am this and yada yada. And over here, I'm like, I've actually talked to them. So, and they're wanting, saying that I work with the devil and I'm doing dark work and all of this stuff. So it's just another, for me, it's another aspect of, yep, there it is. That's the
Yeah.
whole reason.
Well, I always think of it this way. If we step back from this whole scenario, if we go out, like Carl Sagan says, and look at the Earth as the pale blue dot from out in space, and we just think about what religion is, we'll realize that religion is an inside parental job,
Yeah.
and that every child believes in the religion of their parents, and
Hmm.
they think that their religion is the correct religion because it's their parents' religion. That
Yeah.
is not a legitimate reason to believe in anything.
Yeah.
So that sets up the framework for it. Now, it doesn't mean that any particular parents are wrong. It just means that if you're gonna talk about how your God is the only God and those other gods are not the right gods, ask yourself why you believe that, and then you go, oh, it's just because my parents believed it. Well, maybe I got to step back from my view a little bit and take in other views and maybe do some research.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, in regards to like we're just this tiny little dot, which we are. Um, yeah, if we were to go and land on other planets, I mean, one of the first things that we would do when we were studying them is A, what is their culture? B, what are their beliefs? And because culture controls beliefs, right? Or beliefs create culture. And so that's why we have such a widespread range of religions because we have a widespread range of cultures all around our tiny little blue dot, right? And yeah, like I've said religion is whatever gets you through the day. Whatever wherever you're going to answer those the big questions. Why are we here? Where do we come from, right? Wherever you go to find those answers and that sits right with you, that's okay by me. Just don't use it as a form of weaponry
There
against others.
you go. That's really
Yeah.
beautifully put. In fact, that's something that Yeshua might have said himself.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the first things that he said when he came in was I he said I was never meant to be worshipped. That was one of the first things that he said to me, and he did it like this, and he said I was never meant to be worshipped. The last thing he ever wanted, he didn't even want to come down here. He did not even want to come down here. He did it because nobody else was willing, and it was like, fine, I'll go, right? Because there was there the way so this is how it came in. Again, when this pops up, it's like plays like a movie. And I saw this through the eyes of Mary Magdalene. And essentially that I was in this room, not on earth, right? So you know how we go into these rooms when we're planning an incarnation, right? And so we're gathering the people that we're going to go with. And they were just saying that they needed someone. They needed someone to come down to earth. And there are these people standing around, and I saw Yeshua, and he was like, fine, I'll do it. Fine, I'll do it. Like, I don't want to do it, but fine, I'll go and do it. And then his next sentence was, but you're all coming with me, and you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do this. And so like he was essentially, if I'm gonna come down and play this role, which he was just playing a role, then I need this support and I need this support and this support. And so he gathered his team. And through that, one of the things that Mary Magdalene explained to me was she came in and in his whole contract was, if I'm going down, I'm going down with full memory. I'm going to have, like, this, they call it the veil of amnesia. And the people that came down with him, they also did not go through the veil of amnesia. And but one of the things that she did was she was his healer, even though they were soulmates, but she was his healer. That was the main thing that she did for him, was to keep his auric field, just like we're talking about the auric ray, keeping his auric field healthy and clear. And so she said, it's mentioned that I would wash his feet, and she was like, no, I didn't. She was creating all of these soaks for him, and she used crystals, a lot of crystals, and a lot to heal him. And she said I needed to keep his body healthy because it was really hard being down here.
Was he under Archon attack?
I think I can't say yes or no to that, but what? I can only say what she was showing me more, it was just the heaviness and the density of being here. And I'm tapping into it right now. It was more keeping him this clean and clear channel, to keep him a clean and clear channel. So I think it was more just the heaviness of the density, and but archons would be a part of that essentially as well, right? The density of this space.
Klista Kinsler, a woman with a name you can't forget, Klista Kinsler, she wrote a book called The Moon Under Her Feet
Oh,
about Mary Magdalene. And it was the first sentence of that book threw me into a state of tingles that didn't stop. That book is the most amazing book. It's about Mary Magdalene as a high priestess.
mhm.
She was not a prostitute.
No.
She was a high priestess. Do you agree?
Oh, 1000%. Like I like the amount of rage I get inside of me when I hear that people say that about her. No. She was she was absolutely a master healer, a high priestess. She worked with the druids. And so when I'm working with her now, I always she comes in and I see this room and I feel like I'm over in Scotland. And she absolutely worked with the druids. She worked with all the high priestesses over there, and there was this very strong band of women that worked together. And they would, so when I look at the druids, when I'm tapping into that energy, because again, that's another thing we have completely and totally wrong. The druids were the original keepers of the original wisdom. So even Yeshua went and studied with the Druids. Magdalene went and studied with the Druids. They had all of the scrolls. They were the original great libraries of the world in the Scotland, Ireland, and in those lands. It was all there. So people would go and they would spend, I want to say lifetimes, but probably decades, but also probably coming back and back. Yeah, God, yeah, they're actually telling me right now, no, people would purposely incarnate back lifetimes studying all of the wisdom there. They were also beautiful artists. They're singing. That I mean and even though it was an area, they were very nomadic as well, because they would walk and travel a lot together, because when I tap into them too, they're always walking and they're singing while they're walking. So they would travel as well. But people would do, I want to say like it was their life's quest to go and study with the Druids.
Well, so Mary Magdalene in this tale was the funder, the financer of the enterprise of Jesus, and he was like this. He was leading this ragged band of people
Hmm.
around the desert. He had no money, and she had the power. She was in. She was the priestess of the temple.
Hmm.
She funded these guys, and and made sure that their message got heard.
Yeah.
Now, this is a work of historical fiction, but it seems to me that she probably downloaded it without realizing that it's real.
Yeah. There was a place we went to in Egypt, and I actually don't want to say where it was for protection of it. But there was a space that we went to over in Egypt, and I
This
saw
is
all.
recently. Yeah,
Yeah.
you led a tour to Egypt about you came back about 6 weeks ago or so.
Yeah, I was there for 3 weeks. We came back in April. So yeah, we were there for all of Ramadan, but there was at one of these locations I saw all of these Knights Templar, and they were around this specific place, and I'm being very careful with my words because I don't want this location to be shared. But when I went and sat with the Knights Templar that were there, because I wanted to know why I was being shown this, why I was seeing all of them. Once I sat with them, I immediately got very emotional, and I heard Mary Magdalene. And these men who I was seeing were in this caravan that was the whole purpose. And the Knights Templar, to me, again, history has it wrong. The Knights Templar were guardians of the original energy, of the original word, the truths. and it was a life's calling. They dedicated their entire life, and it was also handed down in bloodline too. So a family, right, would dedicate themselves to this, but they went to this location for the purpose of protection and hiding a lot of Mary Magdalene's belongings, and they are buried under the ground.
Is that because she was a literal priestess who had accumulated lots of wealth?
I can't stay to that. I'm not saying that is right or wrong. All I know is that she had a number of very highly valuable artifacts that they did not want anybody else getting their hands on.
And were some
Because
of
that was an era of everything that she had was being destroyed.
and do you think that some of those artifacts might have been scrolls or books?
Yes, I know a few of them are scrolls
And
because I
and do you think that some of those artifacts might have been bars of gold?
yes, there are metals down there. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, I have a friend who's been digging, literally digging at a location in Europe. I'll just leave it there. And I helped him on the dig for a little while, and that was interesting. And he was looking for the scrolls, the texts, and he knew he would find gold too there if he could get in there. But they protected their underground storehouses of artifacts with various means, like putting them in a place where if you dug, you'd get flooded, and so they're well protected from sort of amateur.
Okay. No, okay. I have to interrupt you.
Tell me.
I saw the same exact thing because when I was there, I shared it with somebody that I was with who knows people, and they're like, "Oh, I need to tell so and so." And I was telling my friend, I said there it's pointless. Anybody who would actually try to dig it up, because I literally saw the minute things would collapse onto it, and I literally saw it all being buried again. Like there's the level of protection that is around those, it would essentially get flooded out. They could never reach them. So I saw the same exact thing in Egypt.
You and I spoke about doing an interview on Egypt, and we've gone to some very interesting places that are not Egypt already. And yet, for some reason, I feel that it's completely and utterly appropriate as an introduction to your experiences. Now, you and I talked before you went to Egypt, and you told me about an ancient Egyptian personage. Now, I'd like you to tell me what happened with this personage in conversation.
Well, so yeah, I years ago I did a QHHT, which is for quantum healing hypnosis technique, which is essentially a past life regression on crack because you're do it for like 3 to 4 hours. So I knew nothing about this person, nothing about their life. You go into the sessions, you have kind of, like an intention, right? You have like a question you want answered, but you have no idea where it's going to go. And I saw this entire lifetime in Egypt, and I the name came through Imhotep, and so I saw his whole entire life, and wasn't a nice person, but so I was anxious. You and I talked about in the last podcast. I was anxious to go to see what it would be like because he's considered. I had to like look him up at the end of my QHHT. I looked him up to see what all matched, and he is quoted as being the father of the step pyramid. And now, granted, he didn't call it a step pyramid. I just saw it in my vision when he was building it, and he did build it with his mind, levitation, everything. And so I was interested to see what would happen when I went to the step pyramid when I was over there, and I didn't know how I would feel. And you know what? I felt nothing. I felt nothing when I went to the pyramid. I did, however, I went and I sat on it for a few minutes. It's just a machine. There, nothing was buried there. It's not a tomb. It just felt very much so a machine. I put my hands into the stone and I could feel the tiredness of all of the humans that were around. The I could feel their it wasn't anger. None of them had anger. It was just like the depletion. There's just a heavy amount of depletion that was in those stones. But what was interesting, it filled in on the front of it was it used to be all grass. And the like even walking before you even get to the step pyramids, we were walking through these columns and I could hear trickling water like fountains would be every so often. And I could see these lush greens and flowers, and it was beautiful. And somebody else that was on the trip with me as well was tapping in, and they were seeing all the lush green because the Egypt that we see right now obviously is just desert, it's just barren. And in so many locations that we went to, all I saw were lush green and life and fruit and these, I was in one of these temples in Assyrian's temple and Osiris. And there was this table in one of their temple rooms, and just I could see all the food like laid out on it, and just like big baskets of overflowing fruit. It was all fruits. I could smell jasmine burning in one of the spaces still. And yeah, so the Egypt that we see right now is not at all what it looked like. Not at all. And there's even spaces where you would be standing and a number of people in our group all experience this, but you'd be standing there looking at the pyramid or looking at the temple, and your body would just kind of like start like wanting to do this. You could feel the waves because it used to be ocean. Parts of it used to be ocean, and that residual energy is still there. I even when we were in Abydos, the first night in Abydos, which is Osiris's temple, um, I lay down in bed, and you know how like when you're on the boat all day long and then you lay down and go to sleep at night, you don't realize that your body's still kind of like moving with that. I laid and my whole body was just doing this. And I'm like, to the point where I almost thought for a minute, like, God, I'm gonna get like seasick. Just the movement. And just because it all used to be ocean.
Well, they obviously built the Giza Plateau to rise above flood levels of the Nile, but I also wonder if it helped to mitigate global flooding, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, because they're definitely so, we went out to the White Desert. We ended our trip, and only a very small group of us went. We ended our trip going out to the White Desert, and that otherworldly. But that was all ocean. I mean, it was, you could see all the seashells. They're all still there, petrified in lava. So it's, there aren't where I'm trying to figure out if I have it up here with me. Um, I'll show you this. So this was in the White Desert in one of the oases. You find these and they call them the desert rose. But this is really heavy, by the way, really, really heavy. But it's like these little merkabas of energy that are just spiking off of this. And this is pure lava. They're just energy bursts. And I have another one here that I found at this oasis. I don't know if you can see it clearly. There you go. And there's these little spikes. And this is just lava. Do you see all those grooves? And so yeah, so they call them the desert rose. But these are essentially Merkabas of energy, just energy bursts that are just laying on top of the sand
Wow.
out in the middle of the white desert. And but you can only find these around this one oasis.
I wonder if because Alex Collier does talk about a great war that decimated that area, leaving it to be sand. From, as you say, it used to be a beautiful, lush tropical area, and we have the petroglyphs and the paintings on rocks showing that animals lived there that would have lived in a tropical environment. So we already know that it used to be a beautiful forest, tropical forest.
Mhm.
And Alex Collier says that there was a war, it was devastated, and there's tons and tons of technology, ancient ET technology beneath the sand. If you had the will and the money to dig. But I wonder if those black objects you showed us were from the incredible heat They're created from heat, um, from this war. I don't know how much, well, what weapons were used, but I mean, to devastate an entire landscape, you'd have to have a lot of energy.
There were aspects out in the White Desert where it looked like energy waves. Do you see how on the walls it looks like whoosh? Can you
Yeah.
see that wave movement?
Mm-hmm.
And it is smooth. Now, it is in the mid 90s, like 90 degrees. That white is all over the desert. It is cold to touch. And it's not like freezing, it's, maybe 60 degrees.
Yeah.
But it never, ever, ever gets hot. But it looks so, obviously I was out there with other psychics, medium, energy. We are like, God, what is this made of? And all three of us kept seeing this like whoosh, whoosh. And we're like, it's violent. It feels so violent.
Hmm.
And I mean, what makes that? So that white stuff, our tour guide, Meher Hagag, I love Meher, love, love, love Meher. I cannot recommend him enough. Boundless Holidays. He is a geologist as well as an archaeologist and an Egyptologist and everything. He has a degree in everything. But he's like, we're like, what is this white stuff? And he said, well, they tested it and it's calcium. It's essentially like the broken down bones of all the sea life that used to be there. And they don't know. They can't explain why this is the way that it is. So this is what I stumbled upon. We essentially stumbled upon this. It looked like an auditorium in the middle of the desert. And I'm stood there and I started singing because I was the echo. It's not picked up on this, but the echo, it was just like going all over the mountains. But the it felt like a violent wave of light. You can just, I mean, when you tap into the history of it, all three of us were just, it was like a weapon was used, like, pew, pew, pew. So was this created during a war and they were using light weaponry? Very possible. Because that was made in a flash and it was surrounded by light. Like it was like white, and it was like whites and golds, like boom. And there's a lot of anger behind it.
It's so interesting that it's that pure calcium too.
Hmm.
That's wild.
Yes. Yes. And the sand that we're walking on, it was like it didn't have anything to do with the white. Nothing to do with that
Right.
white
Right.
calcium.
Right. Right.
So for Alex Collier was like the sand was placed there. It does. It does feel like the sand was just placed there.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I'm sure you've had lots of incredible experiences there.
I was being shown that there were doorways. There are definitely doors in some of the pyramids that you can't see with our eyes, but if the energy is aligned in the proper way, that they will open up. The When I was at the Sphinx, I just kind of walked around it by myself. They led me to this one spot, and it is behind one of the paws. And there's just like this inversion that's lasered out. You can kind of like almost hide back there to go and to get to this place. I just stood there and I put my hands on the side and I put my head up against it. And when I did that, the material started to distort. It didn't take me anywhere else, but I could see through the materials there, the rock. And even though that's not right, it's like it's not rock that's made out of. But I could see inside of an area of the Sphinx. First off, there is written words and it's all knowledge that are hand written, carved into the inside of the Sphinx. I saw this woman doing it, and it was almost like her life's work. I saw stairs inside that lead down, and it's these pools of water. And when I saw those, I felt, oh, this was meant for healing. So they would bring people into this room, and it's almost like you walk in, you pass the wisdom, right? All the written words, and you walk down these steps. And I'm hearing, like, even as I'm talking right now, I'm hearing like it was an initiation. Initiation, it was a rite of healing. And you would go and you would sit in these big pools. It's similar to some things I've seen when I've worked with Lemurians. Like Lemurians have these pools of water that and you always step down into it. And it is, and again, the steps are a form of progression, right? It's like it's the ritual going down into that, and you're surrounded in these healing waters. And it's almost like the Egyptians knew about it and they were trying to replicate these healing pools.
For people who listen to you talk about the human aura,
Hmm.
and you've got this spray, as you mentioned, called auric ray, which refers to the human aura. And for people who think that that's New Age nonsense, Semir Osmanagic, who discovered the Bosnian pyramids, has done extensive testing, scientific testing, of people before and after they enter Ravne Tunnel, a prehistoric labyrinth associated with the Bosnian pyramids. Put your fingertips into this machine and it'll read your aura, give you a printout of your aura, a
Yeah.
color printout, and show you the health and strength of your human aura.
Hmm.
And then you go into Ravne Tunnel for 45 minutes or an hour. You come back out and they do the same thing and they show the difference. They show how the aura has been strengthened in almost every case.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about your spray sort of helping the human aura strengthen, this is not new age nonsense. This is actually real scientific data that the human aura does exist,
Hmm.
which we would know if we followed Nikola Tesla's advice about everything being energy, frequency, vibration. We have an energetic field that is either healthy or not healthy
Yeah.
around us. And if it's not healthy, then unhappy entities can come in more easily.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I've actually been working with the Lemurians a lot lately. When I do my tonings here, they are the ones who come in, and um I'm trying to understand the language of water right now because water has its own language, and I'm really they're working with me how to put that into sound. Um, so that's something that I'm working on myself. I'm doing my, proverbial deep dives into understanding the language of water, and how it can benefit our body because we are primarily made of water. And especially, Laura Van Tyne talks about this a lot too, how important the mitochondria are within the body and their connection with the water. And so that, if you want to know what I'm doing in my quiet life right now, that's what I'm doing is I'm working with remembering Lemurian language and how to work with the language of water.
It's so interesting, Abby, because literally yesterday I did a deep dive on water in regard to the hydrological cycle that I believe was created through the building of the creek beds and riverbeds in the continents by the true ancients, as I call them, the ancients who came before the ancients who built the pyramids and other megalithic structures. But so 4 billion years or so ago, they built the continental features specifically to channel and release the magic of water.
Look at that synchronicity. Yeah. Even on crafts, on spacecrafts, some of the healing rooms I've been in are pools of water on the craft. And you go and they use the one that I've been in. It is the blending of crystals, frequency, sound, and the water.
Mm.
And the crystals aligned with the sound imbue I want to use the word imbues, like it imbues the water with all that, and then it's absorbed. A channel came through years ago. They're like, why do we call them pores on our skin, on our body, right? We have pores all over, and they're like, pores, portals. And it's just how we get something through from one location to another. And they're like, every single pore on your skin is a portal to bring in energy, and whether that's through sound, through water, through connection. But yeah.
Right. So the skin acts as a barrier to some things and as a bridge to other things. So they call it semi-permeable, just like a cell membrane is semi-permeable, cell wall. And so the cell intelligently says, I'm going to take in this, but I'm going to keep this other stuff out because I don't want it. Now, Alan Watts talked about our bodies as seen by modern science as skin encapsulated egos. And instead of that, instead of us being sort of separate from and alienated from nature, he said we could look at it a different way and say that the skin is not a barrier but a bridge, because it is a bridge between us and nature.
I love that. I love everything that you just shared because it's true. It's true for me. It resonates. That's how it's been explained. That's how it's been shown. People ask me a lot, how was Egypt for me? And I think that everyone who goes there is going to have their own experience with it, right? The energy of a place is going to interact with you how it needs to interact with you. And so I always say I can only share my experience. I am going back again. I'm going to do it again in October of 2026. If anyone feels called and they want to come, I'm interested to see if it will be the same. But the how Egypt introduced, I want to say herself, how Egypt introduced herself to me was a place of such softness. I think a lot of people think, oh, the powerful pharaohs and the energy is so intense. It was not that for me. It was very feminine and very loving and kind and soft. And the pharaohs and the leaders that, I toned with Hathor, I toned with Isis, I toned with Thoth. Thoth did, really kind of put a smackdown in one session that I tapped into. He was putting kind of the smackdown to everybody. The pharaohs at the time, they all in their prayers, because I tapped into a lot of their personal prayers, even Ramses II, I tapped into one of his prayers as well, was they doubted themselves a lot and they hoped that they were doing their best. And they prayed to their own God that they were doing enough. And a number of them felt very deeply the great responsibility that they had in the role that they had been granted. And so in their personal prayers, they absolutely bowed their head and they said, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? Am I serving your people in the right way? And that really surprised me. It was very emotional for me. I was honored that they allowed me to tap into that memory, but it was very humbling to see that. I think so often, and even in the world that we're in right now, we're seeing these world leaders and they're attempting to go to war again. And we think, oh, they're unrelatable, they're untouchable, we can't go to them. But to see these powerful stances and to go to a place where we often through history were trying to understand the power because these massive temples that they built. And I went to Ramses the second one and he had these 60-foot tall statues of himself. And when I connected him with Ramses, it was because he knew he wasn't up to the task. He knew he wasn't the person that he was supposed to be. And so he built all of these oversized grandeur statues of himself. In this one scene, it portrayed him being this master, like he's a archer, right, in the chariot, and he's like leading these to battle. And I saw that and I just started dying laughing because he couldn't do that. He could not do archery, but he had it depicted, and he had it depicted because he couldn't allow anybody to actually know he wasn't good at it. And so I was tapping all of that, and then I tapped into Ramses' prayer. And in his prayers to his God, he knew I am not up to the task. And he was honest with him and asking for forgiveness for what he had done. So that was Egypt to me. That was the side that Egypt showed to me in my first time going back. We went to Luxor. It was so funny. I really didn't want to tap into this person just because I just felt it's very cliche, but there it was, right? And Cleopatra. We went to Luxor in the evening. We're getting ready to kind of walk in, and it's called the Hall of the Sphinxes, where it's like 140 mini sphinxes were lining the entryway to it. And I'm standing there, and all of a sudden, I see this chariot starting to pull up, and as it goes by, I'm like, oh my God, that's Cleopatra. And it was interesting because I immediately like saw her beautiful green eyes. They were very green, beautiful. But I tapped into her misery. She was absolutely a slave. 100% that woman was a slave. And she was being just carted around, and we walked over to this other area in Luxor, and I could see her being forced to stand there. And it's not that it's not that she was chained, but she essentially was chained. And she was forced to stand there and allow all the people to come in and just gawk at her and just stare. And um, my friend who I was with, she was seeing the same exact thing. That's how she and I, her name is Noelle, and she and I work very well in that way. And we kind of like can tap into the same scenes. But she drugged herself. She like drugged herself every single day just to get through the day. And it was, I mean, it was an herb, it was just, a little drink, a little shot that she would take, but it just completely numbed her. And so she was just standing there, like, eyes glazed over. And her thoughts were like, just get through the day, just get, like, she had no say in her life. She had no control in her life.
Right.
And she was an absolute slave. So, and when I was in Luxor, I felt, oh, we are now in the machine, right? The machine of how, like, we understand the deep state, how the deep state runs, right? Or like if you're looking at Game of Thrones, right? Like the Game of Thrones era, where it had just at this point become such a place of dark politics, a place riddled with so much fear. Everything I tapped into walking around Luxor was nobody had a voice. Nobody could say a word because everyone was terrified that at any minute you would be murdered, you would be beheaded, like you were going up against the gods, you were going against the pharaoh. It just Luxor to me was everything that you might think of Egypt and how it was, right? The powerful pharaohs and everything. And I wasn't joking, but I kind of joked to clear out the energy of Luxor while I was standing there. I said I think it would take 1,000 healers coming here every single day for a solid year, clearing out the matrix energy overlay that is in Luxor. And it really just went out. When I was in Giza, I kind of tapped into there's this weird, and I'm still trying to understand it, Jock. Everything that we talk about, like we're all still trying to make sense of this, right? But I saw there's this weird gridded matrix energy that comes out. And a lot of it starts in these machines, right? And it's like overlaying on the land, and it's so oppressive. And I don't know who put them there, but it's there.
Well, this word you used of an overlay, you said a matrix energy overlay. I think it's
Yeah.
a really good word.
Yeah.
And I think that if we think of the great larger structures, the larger pyramids on the Giza Plateau, for instance, as built long before the pharaohs arrived
Mhm.
by benevolent and superior cultures, and then the pharaohs came, elongated skull ETs, possibly from the exploded planet Tiamat. So they might have been the royals, the refugee royals from Tiamat, but they're definitely not human. They're elongated skull. Their skulls are twice as big as ours, at least. They have a little pot belly. They're very skinny. They're much taller than we are.
Mhm.
And some of them still survive in the Vatican. That's why the Pope has they have this long hat. They're emulating the elongated skull ETs that are their masters and that still rule humanity from the Vatican.
Yeah.
These elongated skull ETs became the pharaohs, and then academic history, controlled history, tells us that they were beloved kings for whom the people built these giant tombs to show their love for the kings. But they were not beloved kings. They were slave masters. They hated humanity. They enslaved humanity. And it sounds to me like Cleopatra, in your vision of her, you were shown clearly that she was a human woman who was one of the slaves of these elongated skull ETs who came much later onto the scene in Cairo.
Hmm. Yeah, when my memories through Imhotep, he hated the people here, hated them
He was an
because
Anunnaki.
yes, he was Anunnaki,
Okay.
and because we were so stupid.
Yeah.
Our intelligence. And I mean, even today, disregard Egypt, disregard history, even today, there are some beings that will come through. They will not gaze their eyes upon a human, a Terran. We're Terran. But it is so beneath them. It's like if I'm standing here and like working on a person, they'll come in next to the table and they'll be like, if I'm there, this is how they come in, and they're just looking at, because their soul is connected to the person who's on the table, and so they're like showing up to either just be with them or to help, but they'll go like this. Like they will not turn and look at me. And because it's just, I think a lot of people have this idea of, like, oh, these benevolent alien, these beautiful races, they love us, they all want to help us. Some do. Some do. Um, but for the other half, while they don't wish us any harm, they want nothing to do with us. Nothing. I mean, we are so beneath them in terms of intelligence. We're wild. We're just wild, savage animals to them.
Now you had this QHHT experience, right?
Yeah.
And Imhotep came through. You found that you were either Imhotep in a past life, or that you had somehow been able to download perfectly all of his life memories so that you had access to exactly what he knew, how he saw things, his perception of events. So you have that in you. You know Imhotep's point of view.
Yes.
And now, was he also an elongated skull ET person? Huge
Yes.
back here like this?
Yes. And he
Yeah.
was tall. He was probably about 10 feet tall, around 10 feet tall, huge feet. That was one of the things that he struggled with. And so when I saw his life, it was all desert. When he was building that step pyramid, now there were trees. There were trees around, but the ground was a desert floor. Because I remember like it was so heavy to walk here because the gravity was different and the gravity here was much heavier, and so it was hard for him because it was in more of an effort even just to walk on the planet here. He complained about breathing in the dust. It was really hard for him to take like a really good, nice, deep breath. He struggled with that. Like he wasn't anything special at all. He was just an engineer. I mean, it would be it'd be like it'd be like the engineer for like AT&T, like your tech guy that shows up and sets up all your internet for you, right? It would be like him going to another planet and they start worshiping him. It's just, it's the same thing. He was just an engineer and he just came here to do a job.
And the step pyramid that he built is not the huge pyramids on the Giza Plateau. It's a smaller pyramid, right?
And he built that way before like Giza, like it wasn't there because she asked in that session. I remember she asked, she's like, "Well, where, like, do you see Giza? Do you see it?" And I'm like, "No, this is the only thing." So it really predated
Huh.
Giza, but and these are the step pyramids that you see all around the planet. They're the same things. They only served, their purpose was to terraform the planet, which you and I have talked about a number of times on this podcast. The job of that was to further terraform, bring more plant life, it also was going to help with just the oxygen level on the planet as well. But they were essentially, what these step pyramids did was it did something to ionize the air so it would induce lightning. And so they're showing me like the lightning, literally, like you could connect, the pyramids would be connected by all these lightning strands, and then it would bring in these huge storms. And that, yeah, that was the purpose of them.
Well, there's a great PDF out there for people who want to read about pyramids as ionizers. That's the name of the PDF. And I've came upon it 10 years ago in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex. And it was in reference to the water that runs underground next to the pyramids There's also water running above ground next to the pyramids in Bosnia. And it's talked about the relationship of water to the pyramids, and it's called the pyramids as ionizers. And I thought this makes sense. This really really makes sense. And now you're bringing it up again through your experience, your vision.
It makes sense for the water underground. So I didn't see it in the session, but he was sharing that it pulled up from underneath the earth, and that is what helped. So I didn't see what he was pulling up, but it would make sense that it was water.
That's cool, and there's a guy that built a pyramid in modern times, a small pyramid on his property, and immediately it pulled so much water up that it just flooded the whole area.
Oh, wow.
He didn't plan on it.
Yeah. When I was in Giza, one of the things that I was doing with my toning is essentially I was pulsating out like you would start a heart, right? Like CPR, like to kind of restart it in a way. But it was also putting it out into this grid. And I know that you can put certain frequencies and put them out from Giza, and it would essentially is like ringing a bell, and it would be felt and heard across the entire globe at all the other pyramids. I know that that is one of the ways that that pyramid works.
That's super cool.
We need to turn it on again.
Well, Ken Rolla talks about scalar waves,
Hmm.
and he says that the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, for instance, is a scalar wave field generator, and the field goes for kilometers and kilometers and kilometers all around the pyramid.
Yeah.
And scalar energy also works in mountains to pull up water.
Hmm.
Water's super heavy, right? So the only force that can pull it up into a mountain is scalar energy. And it
Yeah.
pulls it up, and then there's a little trickle of water from the top of the mountain, and the Sherpa drinks from the little trickle of water. Isn't it wonderful? Nobody thinks about how the water is coming thousands and thousands and thousands of feet up to that point. Well, it's scalar energy. So mountains are natural scalar wave generators, and then you've got pyramids that are mimicking the mountains and have that same ability to pull water up. But of course, they have, as you know, many other abilities as machines. So they're multi-purpose machines. And Christopher Dunn was the first one that came out to talk about this in his book. It's been about 22 years, I think, since he published Giza Power Plant. He's not woo-woo. He's a mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
And so he said, these are machines, and here's my book.
Yeah. The there's at least six. There could be more. I saw six, but there are six sarcophaguses down below Giza, and they are the original engineers.
Oh,
They're
okay.
they're still there.
Oh, okay. Because
Um,
some of those boxes could have been used for something else other than like burying somebody, but you're saying that in this case, they actually do house a body.
there's six of them. I saw six. Again, there could be more. I saw six. And
Interesting.
they are solid black. They almost look like they're onyx. I mean, like obsidian, like, right? Like just like smooth, smooth.
Yeah.
They do have symbols on them. When I was working on them, they were lighting up. So I don't know if you can only see the symbols if a certain frequency, then they would essentially like light up, or if it's in like etched into them.
Hmm.
I don't
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
Because for me they were just like whoosh, whoosh. I mean, it's just a solid. Yeah, they're in stasis. They're in stasis,
Oh,
and they're still there. Um,
wow. So there's stasis chambers. Wow, that's incredible. And we have this tale of the red-haired giant that's underneath the ground next to a river that many, many people in what you might call the cabal have visited, and they sign their name. You have to go underwater in this river, and you come up next to the river into this chamber, and then you see this giant that's held in stasis. He's got there's a crystal hanging from the
oh yeah,
ceiling.
with the yep, I've seen him. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you've seen him?
Well, I mean, I know what you're talking about. Yes, I have seen that.
And even Abe Lincoln was taken there to see him. And so people have signed their names and said, yeah, I saw the red haired giants. That's the stasis. That's pretty wild. But yeah, stasis. I wonder if they even need crystals in these black sarcophagi, because the material itself is probably highly crystalline already. So maybe just this, whatever it is, obsidian or some kind of black granite or whatever, might
Yeah.
be enough to keep these bodies or these people alive in a sleep state.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea how that technology works. You know what's so funny? We walked around a mosque in Cairo. It's like the original mosque. And I saw this red-haired giant, but a true giant, like 20 feet tall,
Mm,
walking around in the mosque.
mm.
Um, I mean, my God, and this mosque is over 1,000 years old. I mean, it's old, 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 old.
Did he
And
look
then
human, or did he look like with that huge jaw with the four rows of teeth?
human, but he was humanoid. Let's say he was humanoid. Like he had two arms, two legs, a
Right.
head, and eyes. But
Was he
I don't
was he menacing, or was he just kind of like do do do? I'm just walking around.
know. He is not somebody that I would want to encounter.
Okay,
He's
because
not something I would,
we have the
he,
Native American tales of the cannibalistic red-haired giants that are like maybe 12 feet tall, something like that.
yeah. Yeah, no. This was an individual that I wouldn't stop and say, "Hi, how are you?" I would just stay out of his way.
Yeah,
When we went to the Valley of the Kings, there were so many giants that I saw, and I need to like let people, I'm not seeing them presently. They weren't there in present. They weren't there in another dimension. So these were the past. I was tapping into what used to be there. So I was tapping into the memory. But there were a lot of giants walking around the Valley of the Kings. And that is where the most dragon energy was. There are petrified dragon eggs in some of those mountains at the Valley of the Kings. They're still there.
now when they're walking around, do you also see that people are interacting with them, like, hey, there's a giant, how you doing? Or is it more like they're running from them, or what?
No, it was like I'm tapping into a time when it was just giants were there.
Ooh. Now, as far as the building of the pyramids, some people go, oh, the pyramids around the world, they had to be built by giants because the stones are too heavy for us. And it's like, well, first of all, what if they cast the blocks and they weren't dragging stones around? And second of all, what if they did what you said earlier in this conversation, which is you said Imhotep built the step pyramid using thought.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there were a plethora of intelligence being used and utilized in these sites. He showed me it was thought.
Thought meaning, could the thought create a block and place it?
Yeah, he was moving it. Yes, yes. It was both, his thought was both molding it and then moving it. And I asked, like, how did you create that? And he was so arrogant. He goes, I just thought it and it is. Like, you're so stupid. Like, this is not hard.
In our schools, they always say there is no stupid question. But
I,
I guess, for the Anunnaki, almost all of our questions are going to be stupid.
yeah, he hated talking to me. Hated, hated talk. And that's why, like, he wouldn't even tell me his name. He gave it to me one word at a time. It went,
One letter at a time.
IMHO. And then I'm like, oh, Imhotep? Like, yeah,
Well, that was in the QHHT session.
yeah, yes,
And you
yeah.
got 3 hours of downloads of his life.
Mm-hmm. Essentially, yeah, part of it. And then he lingered. He actually lingered for about 3 days. For 2 nights after I came home from that, he was pacing up and like back and forth next to my bed, just like ranting all night. I have no memory of what he ranted about other than like I just kept waking up because he was like, "Wah, wah." Like he was just talking nonstop for 2 solid nights into day three. And then whenever I was about ready to, so I mean, I understand the connection between Emotep and why it played a vital role, but for a while before I would do anything to further awaken my abilities, bro step in, Emotep always showed up, trying to kind of block it from happening. So I had to, I mean, yeah, it was interesting. So he was kind of around for a couple years for me.
Why would he want to block your progression in life?
Because we allowed ourselves to be worshipped.
What do you mean?
Because he allowed himself to be worshipped like a god, and that was not accurate.
You mean he was feeling bad that he allowed himself to be worshipped like a god?
Yeah.
So he's taking it out on you?
Well, it's oh, you're about ready to open up more of these abilities. He didn't want me to eventually be worshipped because of those abilities.
Oh, you mean he was protecting you?
Yeah.
Oh, but he's such an asshole.
Yeah.
Why is
Yeah.
he? I mean, if he's an asshole, why is he protecting you?
Because it's still a part of me.
What is?
Um, him.
Oh,
It
he's
higher
protecting
self.
himself in you.
Yeah. Yeah. The soul, the higher soul, the higher oversoul, right?
Oh, 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 I see. He doesn't want you to go down the same road
The same path. Yeah. Correct.
because it's too painful.
Yeah. Well, it's not in, yeah, it's painful and it's not in alignment. That's not what you're here to do.
Right. So what are you here to do, Abby Lynn?
I'm just here to be a bridge. I'm just here to be a reminder for everyone that we all have the access to this. A bridge of bringing back memories, a bridge of bringing back the ancient ways were the original ways.
It's so interesting that you said that Yeshua and Imhotep both said, "Do not worship me."
Yeah, yeah,
They said that's the biggest mistake, right?
hmm yeah. Nobody should be worshipped, N ever. Nobody should ever. But the dimensionality of 3D, I believe, leads to the worship, right?
Right. We love to put the celebrity on a pedestal. We also love to take him down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Now, Mary Magdalene still resonates a little bit. When I say a little bit, I mean, I feel like there's a little bit more that we want to talk about in this conversation that she's waiting for us to talk a little bit more about her. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I mean, honestly, not a whole lot other than she's playing a really big role right now in helping the divine feminine energy wake up. You know, she's really stepping forward in a really big way with a number of people to really help anchor in that. You know, it's so funny because you go back to this whole like the feminist movement, right? They thought that being a strong feminine was to actually be a man. That's where they messed up. And that's why women in Western culture are miserable because their whole mantra was if you're going to be a strong woman, well then actually you have to be a man. But the energies that we're coming into where we're stepping into the need for the higher feminine guidance is what is drastically needed. It's the rising of the feminine guidance and the healing of the masculine. The masculine needs a deep cleansing and healing. So much blood is in this planet of all of these men who worshipped and were led and lost. There's no such thing as lost, but you know what I mean? And it's held. The dirt has all the memories of it. And these waves that come in from the Schumann waves and these solar flares. What do you think that's doing? It's shaking. It's going in and all of the hurt and the pain and the suffering and the wars and the distortion. It's shifting all of this as these photonic light waves are coming through and hitting it, and it's coming back up because the planet is ready to release it. The planet is ready to go to a place where it doesn't exist. But we're here on the soil, and as it releases and going up, it comes back through us. And it's both part of our memory, right? It's starting to help awaken our memory within us, but it's also the reconciliation of what's happened. And we're feeling all of that, men and women. And so these conversations need to happen. But it's like, even though when I say conversation, though, it's like because I do toning and singing, it's like I want to do it with sound. I want to do it in a different way, right? Because so much of our communication is all logos, right? And that's not how, like when we're up in the monkey mind, we can't just talk things to death. It has to be felt. It has to be released in other ways.
And you did a beautiful toning session up at the Journey to Truth conference in lieu of lecturing people about something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did yes. I did a toning and it's so funny, Doc. I actually I started out when I was driving to the conference that morning, the morning of the toning, this huge dragon was just like right on the water coming in with me. And I'm like, oh God, like, what are you here for? And when I go to do a live toning, there's always an intention. My intention in that one was to bring about balance. But until I'm actually in it, I don't always know exactly who's going to show up and to bring that in. And right out of the gate, this huge masculine dragon comes in and and when I do toning, I like to kind of, especially, for people, especially a large group of people, I like to kind of go in smoother and softer for a while to kind of really kind of get them anchored into a nice, relaxed state, just like, you don't want to go fast right out the gate, right? Well, this dragon came in, boom, like so powerful and strong. He just blew the energy up right out of the gate. And it was so funny because a couple people heard it. I was like maybe three or four notes in. I kind of chuckled because I was like laughing with the dragon, like, you're just like, calm down. Like, I don't, you're gonna blow him up with energy. And I was just chuckling with them. But yeah, it was really cool. But he was so masculine, so I was using a lot of masculine voice in that. And it was 8 in the morning and he came in so strong that I kind of struggled to finish the toning with the other beings because my vocal cords were like quivering because he just came in so strong. But it was neat.
Perhaps spirit would permit me to say that killing somebody, if we're talking about the masculine,
Yeah.
killing another man, for instance, has never solved anything. It's never proved that the one who survived was right. All
Yeah.
it did was shed blood unnecessarily. So to me, I've never understood the bullies in school as I was growing up who wanted to hurt people. I've never understood the desire to go to war as a nation, the desire to kill people, as just randomly kill a bunch of people in another country for X, Y, or Z reason. It just, none of it makes any sense to me. It cannot solve a problem. All it does is create misery, and the misery resonates through the ages. So I hope that Source will permit me to say that now, even though I don't have any authority over humanity. I can't tell humanity what to do. Why should they listen to me? All I'm saying is that it's clearly obvious that violence is not the answer. Yeshua came to speak similar words, and you know intimately what Yeshua said through the eyes of Mary Magdalene. Now, was Mary Magdalene, was that her name in that time, or is that our name for her?
She's always introduced herself as Mary Magdalene. Yeah. She has never changed it for me.
And it's a title, right? So it's Mary the Magdalene,
Hmm.
right? It's not like my last name's Magdalene. It's like a priestess title, the Magdalene, like the priestess, the queen.
Hmm. It's really come through to the bloodline is really important too. And I know that their bloodline lives on.
So they had children.
Yes, they did. Yeah. Yes. Yep. And their bloodline absolutely lives on.
Can people research their children, their bloodline, by searching the term Merovingian?
I wouldn't try to find if I was their bloodline.
Wait, what?
I probably wouldn't go searching and trying. I would not want to try to connect those dots on any type of search.
Oh, I see. You're saying that that maybe the bloodline is not searchable.
Well, I think that there's a lot of nefarious beings that don't want that bloodline to exist
Oh,
and are actively searching for it.
oh, so you're saying it might be dangerous to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we have this interesting movie that came out based on, I think, Dan Brown's book. What was it called?
The Da Vinci Code.
Right, right. And it delves into this.
Yeah.
I didn't read the book, I didn't see the movie, but I've heard a lot about it because it was kind of like this cultural phenomenon for a while.
A lot of the abductions that have happened too have to deal with still looking for a certain genetic code, a certain bloodline.
Is the bloodline the Grail? Is the Grail the bloodline?
I don't know. It makes logical sense that it would be, but my intuition wants to be like, no, it's more than that.
More than that,
Yeah.
not less than that. Like, oh, it's just a silver cup. No, it's more than the bloodline.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm,
Yeah.
interesting. Abby Lynn, you're amazing.
Thanks for having me on.
I mean, obviously, we can just talk and talk and talk until the end of time. And you can tell me all the stories of Imhotep and tell everyone in the world the stories from his point of view as an Anunnaki who has contempt for us but wants to protect you because he sees himself in you. We could endlessly talk about Yeshua from the point of view of Mary Magdalene, Mary the Magdalene, the great priestess who was relegated to a prostitute by the Catholic Church. We could talk about so many things. We could talk about the nature of water, the magic of that amazing element. We could talk about the magic of monatomic gold. We could talk about the magic of the incense that's burning right now in your
Faith.
office. We could talk about frankincense and myrrh and the relationship between the archonic realm and the barriers that we try to set up to keep them from us, to keep them from perturbing our lives,
Hmm.
staying outside of our protective human aura. So we could do that forever and ever and ever. It's been an incredible pleasure having you on the show. Do you have any final words for humanity, either from the point of view of Imhotep, the Anunnaki, from Yeshua, or from Mary Magdalene, maybe?
I'm only going to share with what I'm hearing right now, and um, they're saying when you wake up in the morning, sing to the sun.
They were a sun worshiping culture in Egypt at some time. I mean, we have the sun god Ra as the primary god of the Egyptians, right?
Mhm. I don't really care for Raw. Raw's energy is very chaotic to me. But the sun itself, the sun, is the Syrian I worked with, I asked him, I woke up one morning and I was seeing, it was the sun was rising and he was sitting right next to my bed on the floor and he was just gazing with me out of my window. And I asked him, because at that time he was kind of teaching me his language. And I said, what is your word for that? And it was the sunrise. And he said, Rasana. He said, Rasana. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, the bringer of life, meaning the sun is the bringer of life.
And this was an Assyrian.
No, this was with years ago. I worked with a Syrian being, a man from Sirius.
Oh, I see. A man from, oh, I see. From
Yeah.
Sirius. I see, I
Yeah,
see,
a
I
man
see.
from Sirius. And but interestingly enough, when I was in Egypt, showed up the most. Syrians shared a lot of the technology that is in Abydos was all Syrian energy technology. They shared, Noel and I were seeing, again, memory, ships like flying in by the Osirian temple. ships coming in, and we could actually see beings like carrying these devices in these underground tunnels.
Is Osiris and Sirius, are they related and we just have the words a little bit different? Or,
So I saw giants walking around in that temple as well. I can't speak on the timeline overlay of it.
right. It seems like there might have been many different cultures or ET beings coming here to the Cairo area and overlaying their own benevolent or regressive or neutral matrix, as you call it, there. So it might be really difficult to unpack what went on because it's hard to know what time period you're tapping into.
Yes, because I didn't give myself the time in every space to work out, is what I'm seeing a blending, is what I'm seeing what actually was at this in one given time. I was just taking in all of it. I will say that I loved at in the at an Abydos temple, Syrian. I heard a lot of children laughing, and so in some of those temples and some of those sites, especially with like powerful people, I think a lot of us are led to believe that children are meant to not be seen or heard. But in that temple, children were celebrated and they were allowed to run all around there, and they were very, very happy. I felt very, very welcomed in that space. And I know that I have been there before.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, my first couple steps, I was given a message. So, I was very welcomed there. I was given a special privilege there too.
Had you been there as Imhotep,
No, I didn't feel that I was there as Imhotep. Mm-mm. Nope.
maybe as a Syrian being?
The visit, maybe from there, but visiting.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting to know that Cleopatra was a slave to the pharaonic kings who were said by academia to be beloved kings, but were actually monsters who hated and ruled humanity and kept us as slaves. That's an interesting bit of history that Cleopatra was a slave and not a queen, but trotted out as a queen.
Yeah. She was trotted out. I mean, she was treated like a queen, trotted out like a queen, but she was a slave. She had no say. I won't go on record on this. I had the feeling that she was sold. Like her father knowingly sold her or gave her up.
Well, it seems like if these elongated skull ETs, who are so much more powerful intellectually and other ways than humanity were, if they wanted to interbreed with humanity, they could just have whoever they wanted. And they're like, let's take the green-eyed girl, and then she's Cleopatra the queen in the history books.
Hmm.
And she was a queen because she was, let's say, married to, but they were probably interbreeding with us, just even though undoubtedly their doctrine was do not interbreed with these lower
No,
beings.
Emotep did. Emotep interbred.
But was he regretful of that?
No. Well, he was regretful. A lot of his anger came from because he did that, he was never allowed to return home
What,
because
what was
they
home?
were um his planet. I don't
Nibiru?
know. Yeah, I don't know. Um, but I just know he couldn't return home. And again, like he didn't even want to tell me his name. Like it was like getting that type of personal information from him was like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
But
So he didn't tell you the name of the children or anything like that either.
his firstborn son, and I don't know if he had any more than that because the session like he dipped out, but his firstborn son became the pharaoh.
Okay.
And so he's his son helped him soften, and that's when he did get emotional. So he despised us, hated us, blah blah blah. And he said that because he had no one to talk to. He literally had absolutely no one he could converse with at his intelligence. So he said, so I chose to procreate, and I put all of my intelligence in him. So I don't know how he knew that all of his intelligence would be put into this child, but I do feel that there was a technology used. I don't understand it. All I know is he knew that all of his intelligence would be put into this child. And he said through my son I grew to love the people here because I saw them through his eyes.
And his son, being a hybrid, was half human.
Yes.
It's super interesting that at least one of the pharaohs was not fully an ET, but a half human, half ET hybrid.
Yes.
And do you
Yeah.
know which one that was?
He didn't tell me his name. When I looked it up later on, they actually said Imhotep didn't have any children. He was an advisor to the pharaoh. And so they had that wrong. The pharaoh was his son.
Right.
No.
All right. Well, that's incredible. Is Imhotep available right now to give us any final words? Whether,
No, I'm not talking to that a-hole.
yeah, but isn't he a part of you?
Yeah, but I don't really he I will say this. This is the only thing I'm gonna say is the day before we went to Giza, I all of a sudden that was the first the one and only time he showed up. And I asked him, like, why are you here? And he said, I'm here in your protection. And he said, and here I will remain for the remainder of your stay.
So your QHHT session was many years ago, and then the next time you saw him was, after he hung around for a while after the QHHT session for a couple of years. Then the only time you saw him after that was the day before you went to Egypt.
The day before I went to Giza. I know I had already been in Egypt. I had already been in Egypt almost 2 weeks at this point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he showed up the day before we went to Giza.
And he only said that short bit to you, and then you knew that he was there to protect you for the rest of the trip.
Yeah.
And what was he going to protect you from?
I have no idea.
But you needed protection. Maybe it's from that matrix overlay you're talking about it on Giza.
Maybe, yeah, I know. Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, I mean, I asked him, like, what's gonna happen tomorrow? Like, why? Like, why now? Um, and he didn't say anything. He just stood there. And honestly, it made me a little emotional just because I felt his heart, right? And I have no idea. I have no idea what he protected from me from, but I had a great experience and nothing happened, so I'm assuming it worked.
And he would understand the matrix overlay there better than anyone because he was part of it,
Correct.
and his son was part of it.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes and no. So yes at the time, but what I was kind of tapping into, this is a different overlay that came in after their time. And I don't know, I can't speak more to that.
Right. Well, the pharaonic kings went for thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like that they each lived for hundreds of years or something, right?
I don't know. I mean, we're relying on this from history books. Some of the gods that I tapped into, I mean, the pharaohs, the leaders, felt very, very human to me and lived a normal human life.
Right. Well, it might have been for the same reason that maybe they're a human ET hybrid, so they take on the human lifespan once the gods, the ETs have interbred with us. It's like, well, we interbred with you, and that was fun, but now we're going to only be able to, our sons and daughters will only be able to live 100 years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if I were to answer that right now, what is coming to me is much shorter than the originals, but double the human lifespan.
Oh, okay. So maybe a couple 100 years, maybe a little longer.
Yeah, like 150, something like that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, you have an incredible array of way out of the box talents, gifts, let's call them. And people can find you at abbylin.co. And probably if they want a session with you, maybe you could help them delve into their own past lives. I'm not really sure. Do you offer that as a session?
Yeah, I offer what I'm really kind of shifting more into is spiritual advisement. So it's a little more like gosh, I don't like the word therapy, but it's more along like that. Okay, bring in your higher self, bring in your guides. Let's look at life path. Let's how can we help and guide you along your this life path? If are you feeling you're ready to shift, you're ready to make changes in your life, right? So we'll delve into that and through that advisement, maybe one session, I prefer to work with somebody, a month at a time. Maybe one session is just an energy healing. All right, let's do that. Maybe we bring in sound. Maybe one session is a full-blown reading. Other times it's just me sitting and listening and allowing you to, because what I can do is because of the work, I can almost remote view. So I worked with a client for a few months and they were going through some of their childhood experiences and memories and some dream work. And when you describe that to me, I can put myself into that space and be that observer and looking around, right? And then so we can delve deeper into those moments in your life and unpack those again, all about releasing and moving forward. But another way is I'm finally putting my tonings on my website, and so you can buy those as downloads, clearing your energy, their meditations, and I'm going to continue just to place a lot more of those on the website, and they'll all be with an intention placed behind them.
Well, as we know from the Bible, from the Gospel of John, which I just looked up on ChatGPT to make sure I got the right book, because I figured it was probably Genesis, but it's the Gospel of John. In the beginning was, they say, the Word, but
Hmm.
let's say in the beginning was music.
Yeah.
Let's say in the beginning was sound. So if someone wants to get a session with you, you might do something like toning, where you use the power of sound, which came in the beginning,
Yeah.
and from sound, from music, came form. So we know this, people want to search cymatics, Cymatics. It shows with little sand particles on a plate how a certain note, a certain frequency can form complex patterns that look just like life patterns, a tortoiseshell, or a flower, a whole bunch of different things that we recognize in life. And so we see immediately sound is creating form.
Yeah.
Now, if sound can create form, what else can it do? So the power of sound is something that you are able to use in your what you call toning, because it's sort of like singing, it's sort of like
Mhm.
chanting, but it's something a little bit in between, maybe.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is in between. That is my favorite way to work with somebody is coming in, speaking light language, which is the original language of the soul, and then through that using sound. Because it can move the most, it's the most impactful, and again, the soul understands it. The soul recognizes it. So when I was over in Egypt, a lot of what I did was toning. I went into each of these temples and I did toning. And sometimes the toning was just purely frequency based. The other times it was a song that had been sung in that temple for years and years and years during one of their ceremonies. And I was hearing it while I was there. And so all I was doing was just replaying what I'm hearing there so that the people who were with me could hear. A lot of what I tapped into were their ceremonies for when a soul was crossing over, because that was a lot of what they did in the temples, and to make sure the whole soul went over into the afterlife instead of being fractaled out. And because of that, there were no heavy energies or living spirit in any of these temples. None. None. And so when I say I was like tapping in, I could see giants. They weren't living spirit. It was just a memory. I'm just tapping in like you would put in a VHS and play a movie. The land did it beautifully. It's so clear and clean there, honestly. So I'm more than happy to share. I put together a little 3 minute it's the sounds of Egypt. So it's one of my tonings from there, and it's all the pictures from Egypt if you would like me to play that.
Yeah, you can send it to me, and I'll just insert it in this. I remember your advertisements for the tour. Now you've got another tour coming up in 2026 to Egypt.
Yes. We're going back again October of 2026. Yep, gonna do it again. We're actually gonna start in the White Desert though. And I am gonna do it as a smaller group this time.
Okay. Well, I know that Tyler Koala and Lily Nova both went on this tour, right? And
Hmm.
they had such incredible things to say about it. And Tyler was sending back little quick videos of things that were happening. You're on the boat, and he's like talking with Lily, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing to get this snippets of the experience that the members of your tour were having. And
Hmm.
you set it all up. It's all because of your incredible attention and your power to bring back that word. You're a powerful woman. You're not trying to be a man. You're fully in your femininity and you're fully in your power, just like I'm sure Mary Magdalene was
Yeah.
back in the day, and still is. In fact, right now, is Mary Magdalene working right now to help us?
Yes, she is. Absolutely. Yes, she is. The next thing I have coming up is in October, and it's here in Charleston, and it's working with Sherry Dippend and Lori Van Tyne, and it's really wrapped around helping to find that voice again. I mean, so what I'm working on is helping everyone to find their voice, but it is that divine feminine energy, that wisdom coming in, and how we can get back into the body and find that frequency, find that voice, that unique vibration that is you. How can we calm the mind down enough, balance out our energy fields enough where we truly tap into our own inner wisdom, our own inner knowing? And we're spending 3 days of immersive work doing that.
Is Mary Magdalene being channeled in this work?
Sometimes she absolutely is. Yeah.
Is she the template? Is her life a template for all women?
She would never want anyone to think that. Yeah.
Well played, well played.
Yeah.
What would you say would describe her frequency, or her specialness, her uniqueness? If you had one word to describe it, what would you use?
Vision. She allowed She saw everyone so clearly for who they are.
Hmm.
So when you look at Mary Magdalene and she does not like being I mean even tapping in, she's like no, like she is always honoring everyone else with her, right? So she does not really like to be looked as one. It's but each person has their own beauty, their own voice, their own purpose, their own story. And to view that and the encouragement that she has for each person to live their most authentic self, their authentic blueprint that they came here to be, that's what she's so good at doing.
So
Is to see you, and she holds you in that vision.
right. You saw Yeshua through the clear lens of her vision.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. Well, QHHT was the beginning of an incredible journey for you with Imhotep.
Hmm.
So if people want to look into QHHT, that would be great. I've never had a QHHT session, but I'd be excited to do it. If people want to look up another example that's pretty powerful of QHHT, they can find Star Crash audiobook on Amazon, which is Dolores Cannon relating what one of her clients that Dolores put through a QHHT session told her about a Native American life that this client had lived previously in southern Canada, and where the Native American tribe was brought into contact with a crashed ET craft and interbred with. This is a spoiler alert. Sorry, I gave the spoiler alert after the information. And so it's absolutely fascinating tale that this woman had no idea that she had inside of her until QHHT, led by Dolores Cannon, who was really good at this, came into her life. So It's nice that QHHT has been able to release this incredible amount of this personage from ancient Egypt and possibly from much deeper into the past than that, Imhotep. So you could get to know this incredible person and to know his every detail of his life,
Hmm.
almost like it's a magical thing. And so it's really beautiful. And so, I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many things that are amazing about this interview and amazing about you. And I want to worship you.
No.
You are my God.
Oh my God, no, it's so awful.
Abby, you are my goddess. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, no.
It feels weird, right? To have somebody doing this to you. Because you're
So,
like, no, take your power, man.
yes, yeah, no, yeah, nobody should, don't. I mean, Yeshua has always said, get off your knees, get off your knees. If I could go to a mountaintop and just chant that across
Mm,
the world, I would do it.
mm.
Get off your bloody knees.
Yeah. Well, the whole world's on their knees.
Yeah.
We've got
Mhm.
people on their knees worshiping God by various names all across the planet. I don't know if the vast majority of humanity are in the sky god religions and just on their knees all day, but maybe we could say half or more. That's pretty sad. I'm really sad for humanity. I've always been sad for humanity because it just seems like a circus out there in so many ways. People killing each other, people beating each other up. I'm right. Really? Are you right? And you prove that by hitting someone in the face. That's how you show that you're right. That makes no sense to me. So, but that's the whole world. That's people just like violently attacking each other all day long, and it's like that's our world. Our history is one of war. It's like when are we going to come out of this nonsense? So, Abby Lynn, any final words for the circus that we call humanity?
Just go out and try to find fun and joy as much as you can in your life, and try as much as you can to drown out all that noise, because all it is noise. Yeah, and just be the it sounds so cliche, but just be the best you that you can be,
Hmm.
and do it unapologetically. Like just shine your light, who you are, so bright and so big, and live a life without regret. And don't live your life for other people. In terms of what I mean by that is, don't live your life in other people's version of you or what they think that you should be. That's what I mean by that.
People may not know how powerful the emotion of guilt is,
Yeah.
but it rules the world from inside. So the rulers don't even have to come with a club and say, "Do what I say." They just put the guilt in you, and then
Hmm.
you're their slave for the rest of your life. And it's like we have to exorcise guilt, shame, because those are just we're asking other people's views to rule us, and it's like we cannot go forward as a species if we continue to have if we continue to give away our authority, our power, our sovereignty.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
Power comes back in where the power just keeps coming back around. It's important. We need to step into our power.
Yeah.
And Abby Lynn, you're a shining example, literally shining in the screen here, glowing of a woman in her power. And I'm glad to know you. I'll try my best not to fall on my knees and worship you when I see you. And, and I'll have a T-shirt that says "Abby Lynn is my God."
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's really lovely, and I'm glad you got a chance in your very very busy life. You've got kids, you've got a husband, you've got a business, you've got tours, you've got a dragon that you talk to, even though he doesn't talk back, who protects you. You've got Imhotep, who you might say some words to, but he doesn't talk back either. You've got a lot of stuff going on. You're making Auric Ray with your daughter, and people should go get some Auric Ray on your website. When I scrape up some money, I'm gonna maybe I'll go sell some apples on the street and and so I can get some money to buy some work, Ray. You're supporting humanity in its continual effort to be free from archontic or archonic influence with your beautiful frankincense and selenite and sage mixture that you put together yourself. So, Abby Lynn, I love you.
Love you too. I want to say this. The only way that we can do any of this is by finding and working with and helping the others.
Mm.
That's it.
And
This is
that's
none
also
of this,
the, go ahead.
none of this is a solo job. None of it.
No, no, it's not a solo job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, we're most happy when we're helping others because we're outside of our head.
hmm
When we're thinking about ourselves, we're kind of in misery. We're like, am I beautiful enough? Am I smart enough? People think I'm okay? Oh, I have to do this. I got a bill I got to pay. I'm so worried. But if we're helping someone,
hmm
my gosh, suddenly we're outside of all those crazy thoughts that keep us so unhappy.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And a lot of the work, I work with a few others behind the scenes quietly, but it helps to work with a group, and power in numbers. So a group of us have dedicated our time and our energy, no matter what the backlash might be, in helping this matrix and helping this planet. So yeah.
And some of that has to do with toning.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Clearing out things, clearing out some stuff.
Yeah.
Let's just call it that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No Shayana Yana Yana Nasi Monasi Kanayani Unayani Kashanayane Onayasi Ononuisi Monasiane Uanahi Mono Yosul Mono Yehonazi No Nasi Ulanaya Soyani Unayanahi Anusunihi Mahkashanase Anasonui Ku krashmayana sneyanui.
It's so nice to talk to you. I don't want to end it, but we have to end it. The people have gotten their dose of Abby for the day.
Oh my God. Yeah, you know what? Once we get done here, I gotta go get a backpack for my daughter. So
Okay,
back to 3D stuff.
back to 3D.
Yep.
Well, it's been sort of like it's been like biting into a nice, sweet, juicy apple to talk to you. So
Which is like the best thing ever. I love eating an apple. Love it. I had to eat apples with cheese though. I have a couple slices of cheese with my apples.
yeah. Well, I've never eaten food on the podcast because it's rude, but I felt called to bite into an apple to show people what it's like to talk to you. It's so sweet.
It's so refreshing.
It's so refreshing. Um, thank you for telling us the truth about Mary Magdalene.
hmm Yeah.
And
And why also I want to emphasize it's my truth, right? It's coming through my experiences and my filters. So other people can have their own truths and it doesn't make anyone right or wrong. It just I shared my perspective.
that's a really good adjustment. Yeah, your truth. Thank you for sharing your truth, Abby Lynn.
hmm
I hope that you have a lovely day buying a backpack for your daughter.
I will. And I'm going to send over that the toning from Egypt so you guys can listen to that. Enjoy it.
Perfect. Perfect.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Jock. No Shayana Yana Yana Nasi Nayani Nayani Kashanayane Oh Nayasi Oh no Nuisi Mornasiane Uanahi Mono yosul mono ye nazi no nasi Ulanaya sayani ni Unayanahi anusunihi Makash
Ashanasei anasonuia. Neoseneioni. Ku krashmayana sni.